7, apologizing for the little late start. The engineer was trying to iron out some kinks, and the producer was trying to get her stuff together. So she's there to fault that I'm starting late. So I want to say a special good evening to all the avid listeners of Love 97 and those who followed me over the years. Primetime and Independent Thinker. 14 years has been now. I started some 14 years ago. My first show was supposed to be with Brandon McCartney, but he had to make a trip on the first night, and my first guest was Rodney Munker, because we were a part of the DNA. We just had launched the Democratic National Movement Alliance, and that's some 14 years ago. So now time fly. I was in 2010, right after the Free National Movement handed 51% of the telco to cable and wireless. I decided that they used to when I call talk shows, they used to hang up with me too fast. I used to allow maybe 3 to 5 minutes. So I had to go on there at my own show so I can be able to talk as long as I could. And I started my show, but see how it is. I'm winding down now, headed out the door. I think I made a great contribution personally to the information dissemination in this country as well as I could. My ability allowed me to. And some persons still believe that I still have some things to offer, because for the last 2 years, I hasn't written a check to Love 97. Some persons feel that they are prepared to sponsor the show fully. For the last 2 years, going on 2 years now, I hasn't paid $1. Because people feel that the information is very valuable, that I research, and that the guests that I bring on, they offer great information that assists some persons who use it. And some persons call back for more, so they call back for tapes, they call back to hear the show over. And I get some word that the birdie said that the Prime Minister has continuously tried his best once he's in town to listen to the show. And I really appreciate that. The leader of the opposition, he been on my show once before. He hasn't returned. Majority of the Free National Movement cabinet ministers has attended the show. Majority of the PLP cabinet ministers has attended the show. And, time's winding down. Things must move on. But tonight, our banner sponsor tonight, the City of Hope, the former Cancer Society of America, Judy's Bread Shop, the bread from the pond to your hand, Dr. P's Barber Shop for the perfect cut, and you, what you call it?
Bahamas Carnival.
Bahamas Carnival. Like, I have in the chair tonight my good friend Dario Torelli. He's in the chair with me tonight. We're going to talk some Grand Bahama talk. We're going to talk some Hawksbill Creek Agreement and some Grand Bahama Port Authority, and we're going to talk some F&M talk. We had some information in the Ghetto News Network, some plenty things happening in F&M at this time. There's some shuffling, some things happening, because they got a convention is proposed for November, and they doing some things. So maybe at the second half of the show, we're going to turn our eyes to that and bring you updates on things what's happening in the Free National Movement, the official opposition of this country. Go ahead, producer. Yeah, but tonight we're going to talk to Grandmama. I have C. Allen Johnson. He had to go into a meeting last week, but he's supposed to give us a call from Freeport and give us an update on what's happening in Grand Bahama. So he's going to give us a call. He's going to give us a call tonight. He's on the line already. So I'm going to go straight into him, and then we'll come back and me and Dairo will chime in and put add information to what he's saying. C. Allen Johnson, good evening. How you doing?
Good evening, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing so far so good. Boy, Freeport is been in the news for the last 2 months, and reference to some things, some decisions were being made from before the PLP won in '67. The Hawksbill Creek Agreement, I think, was done under the UEP. Is that correct?
Actually, the UEP didn't form until 1956. So this was signed in 1954. So there was no political parties at the time the Hawksbill Creek Agreement was signed, but in 1950, the rest of the political party in 1953. UBP came in 1956. So it was still a group of independents.
All right. So then, so the UBP isn't responsible for the Hawksbill Creek Agreement.
not as you call the UVP party, but we didn't have, remember, until the PLP was formed, we didn't have political party governance. And until the Constitution is the one that it actually put it in pure writing, I think. I'm not too familiar on the history, but I know that the PLP was formed in 1953, the UVP was formed in 1956, and the Hawks Creek Agreement was signed in 1954.
Right, so that means that we cannot blame none of the political parties for that particular agreement.
Yes, right. You can't in the pure sense of who we say a party that's responsible. Parliament signed that agreement.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's new information. Yeah, that's new information for me. I was thinking that was formed. I was thinking that particular agreement was agreed during the rule or the UBP. But now you corrected my information. I'm glad of that. Right. It formed in 1953. It was signed in 1954. And how long was the first agreement for?
No, the agreement has been issued since 1954. Actually, there was an agreement before this agreement, in 1925. There was a 99-year agreement with the Grand Bahama Development Company. And it was for the whole island. That first agreement was for the whole island.
Wow.
And it kind of disappeared. And I don't really have enough time today, but essentially in 1954, was a rebirth of that 99-year agreement for the whole island, this time only for a section in Freeport.
But so was the 99 agreement and was the 99 years agreement? Was that controlled by Sir Jack Havens and Georges, or was before them?
No, that's before them. That's 1925. That's the first agreement. It's supposed to go from 1925 till now, till this year,
the next year.
24.
Oh yeah, 24 this year. So this would have been expired. Already been expiring now.
Yes.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So what happens then is that it was called the Grand Bahama Development Company. It's for the entire island, over 300,000 acres. And essentially, I remember his name was Louis Chessel or something, who was the first president of the company. But it was signed. I'm trying to look for the Berkman and I thought, okay, let me see. I'm trying to pull up some quick information on that. It was leased. I should have had this ready for you. Didn't know we was going to go back. Because it's the policy to have to understand context. It was signed by Captain. It was by people sitting in the House in the British Parliament. Major Philip Colfax and Right Honourable Frederick E. Guest, the wonderful good servant, and they signed a development. At the time, they were developing Eleuthera, and they signed for the whole island to make the whole island a development agreement. And they were supposed to take Grand Bahama off the hands of the government at that time and make it into a major city. Somehow, we had some financial problems and other different things happen, and the agreement kind of disappeared. I never really fully done the research. But somehow, it was rebooted in 1954 with the Hawks Creek Agreement. Now, you have to understand, this somehow ties into what was happening to Cuba at the time. And this is where, if you actually know the history of Grand Bahama, you get to understand when the gangsters or casino operators from Cuba moved to Freeport also as part of the whole process. Because we even had a Royal Commission report on the casinos here in the Bahamas before the Royal Commission report. We had those commission report, and then even the United States Senate had a full hearing on casino gambling in Freeport in the Bahamas. But essentially, Wallace Groves basically then came, and somehow some of the same players were still involved, but it came into this new agreement that we now refer to as the Hawks Creek Agreement, which then began another 99-year cycle, ending in 2054.
So the agreement was signed in 53. Now it ends.
No, it's signed in 54. 53 is the founding of the PLT.
54 was the what?
53 is the founding of the PLT.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is the agreement was signed in 54. But I'm saying, was that the start the 99 agreement with St. George's and Jack
No,
Henry?
not right. That started a new agreement, but at the time, understand that the Hayward, only the Hayward was involved with this at the time. I think it was the father of the Hayward. What's the name of my mind's right? But the one we know now, his father was the attorney or something of that sort involved with it. And and right, see, this is the St. George's second generation, and this is the Hayward's fourth generation in the Bahamas involved with Freeport.
Wow. So so they really, based on what you're saying, if the information you're saying is dotted, that means they really adopted a plan that was circulating before they came. So it's really not their idea.
Yes, you could make that argument, but essentially what it was though, it was somehow this Hudson Creek Agreement came into, and remember now, Wallace Groves was not a stranger to the Bahamas. Wallace Groves actually lived in the Berry Island, okay, on Wilkie. So I think it's Wilkie. So it wasn't like he was some stranger. Then there's some other part of it, if you remember, that the Abaco Lumber Company also came to Freeport. I'm trying to give you some background information, but not necessarily in succinct order. But the Abaco Lumber Company came here, and that's a whole different story concerning the lady that brought the Abaco Lumber Company here, and that was another battle that actually went on in the background that drove her out of business. And they were also, Grand Bahama doesn't necessarily have a clean history. I'm talking about even the island of Grand Bahama that you go to Freeport. Because Grand Bahama was where the rum running out and the pirates, the guns, all those different things from Western and other places. So,
see, Alan, you live in Freeport. You are very noticeable and knowledgeable about what's happening in Freeport. Based on the agreement, during the years you in Freeport, do you think that the Bahamian people has benefited from this Oxford Creek Agreement at the level that they should, and at the level that agreements allow or permits to happen? Do you think that the Bahamian people, or you think that the movers and shakers of the Grand Bahama Party really benefited over the last 50 odd years of this agreement?
Right, I like the way you frame that question. This House agreements benefited the way they should in the last 30 years. What is 30 years as a jump off? No, they haven't. And that's because what happens is that essentially you have to go back to going back to say from 1992, and it's a lot of global events that are going to come to you on those. But when you go back to the fact that the House agreement expired in 2054, certain concessions, the tax concessions like the House agreement, expired in 1990. I think originally it was 1985, it was extended to 1990. But in 1990, some things were supposed to fall off from the Hudson Creek Agreement. So oftentimes we hear people talk about this agreement being extended post-1971, which was the Royal Commission report. It gives you a full detail in that, and anybody wants it can attack me. But after that, in 1990, and you hear people talk about this extension. Cuba England did not give an extension to the Hudson Creek Agreement. Perry Christie did not attempt to give an extension. Essentially, the Hudson Creek Agreement called for a certain period of time that you wouldn't pay real property taxes and various different taxes. Those things expired in August of 1990. Essentially, what Cuba England did in 1992, they don't know exactly why the limits of independence was not addressed just leading up to 1990. But in 1993, Cuba England retroactively reinstate those things. So the proper way to state what happened in 93 is that the Hudson Creek Agreement called for these things to happen. Essentially what they did was the law delayed the implementation of what the agreement called for. Because understand it, you can't modify the Hudson Creek Agreement in the purest sense, because the Hudson Creek Agreement is a law. To modify the law, you must strike it down, meaning it must cease to exist. So they modify these, simply saying these concessions are supposed to take a place, these things are supposed to fall away in 1990, it's going to be allowed for another 25 years, which took us to 2015. And so the question then becomes, did we benefit from it? Now, The Oxford Creek Agreement, in the root basis, is one of the most ideal agreement there is in the world. In fact, I think it's the fifth agreement in the world. And all agreements ever since have been modeled after the Oxford Creek Agreement. And you ask the question, how do we benefit as a nation, not as Grand Bahamians? This agreement is not about free thought. This agreement is between the government of the Bahamas for the benefit of all the humans, the licensees, and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. So the reason we talk with this Oxford Creek Agreement, we say, oh, the residents of people are doing something. No, this is all, the government of the Bahamas is all the humans. But so then you have this, going back now, you have this Bengay agreement where some people wanted to sell their shares. And so the government of the Bahamas agreed to certain concessions after the Ben of Grace speech. They call it the Bengay Agreement. So essentially, that's when they made the agreement for these people to sell their shares, and it then changed some of the rules of the game, which then allowed the government of the Bahamas to take possession of 7.5% of the Grand Bahama Port Authority and appoint some board members and some seats on the boards and various different things.
Right, and what year that was?
Huh?
What year that 7.5%?
I think it was 19. The Bengay Agreement. I'm not too good on these days. I just kind of go into this during the summary. But
Yeah, because see what happened was, right, some persons, some senior men doing in the Breakfast Club being trying to educate me with some of the information of the 7.5%. And they said that 7.5% was tied to a royal bank account, right?
Yeah. No, that's afterwards. See, we're now moving into where the money was supposed to go to.
Right.
I heard that rumor. I just missed that rumor because what happens is we own the 7.5%. Now understand this. No asset of the government can dispose of except in Parliament. You can't sell land, you can't sell shares the government owns in any government company, unless it happens in Parliament. There's no.
Hold on. Before you go any further with that, I'll tell you what happened. I was directed by one of the former. I was directed. I could call his name. Eloftus Roker sent me to investigate. I can say something to you. He sent me to investigate the Buena Vista restaurant on the up there by Mean Street and Delancey Street. And during the investigation, I found out that the restaurant was owned by Louis Reynoso, Barbara, Deborah Rule, and the lawyer who just died, Andres. The lawyer, Darrell Rule, right? And that the property was purchased by either the Treasury or National Insurance for $3 million or $2 million, something like that. I think $3 million or $2 million. I think I'm not sure, but I think it's $3 million. I had a copy of the document, and from Barbara Rule, Darrell Rule, and Louis Reynoso, and by me investigating it, I found out that a distillery ended up on the Bahamian people property that was purchased by National Insurance under the Free National Movement, right? And they started to build their distillery and everything. So when I brought it up on my show, the Tribune carried a piece where he stated that the Watlands Distillery said that they are in negotiation with the government and purchasing the property. But the question what I asked that night on the show was how you can build on government land without, and we just bought that property with National Insurance money through the Free National Movement when the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Hubert Alexander Ingram, was the Prime Minister. And they were the questions that I had asked, and that the next day in the Tribune it came out where they say that and what happened was, Mr. Allen, is that when the PLB FM lost in 2012, and I spoke, I had the Honorable, at the time he was the Honorable Shane D. Gibson, he was the Minister of National Insurance, and I put the question to them. And I asked him the same thing: how is it that a private company could go and build on government land? And he said, which land I talk about? I said, I mentioned Buena Vista Restaurant, Delancey Street, Meeting Street. I think they were descendants from the Bacardi plant people or something like that. And he said, so that was done under the Free National Movement. And he said that, so I said, did the Bahamian people get the money back what we buy the property for? And he said, blatantly on the radio, no. Say the Bahamian will never get the whole, I think it's $2 million or $3 million. He said we never get the full amount. So we purchased the property, the Bahamian people purchased the property through a government, while the government's in power, for some $2 million or $3 million. I'm not sure the exact figure, but we end up selling it later on to a private investor for less than we paid for it. And plus, part of the agreement was the Bahamian people had to fund a dog and a man to patrol and patrol the property until the investors take possession. And the Bahamian people had to pay $33,000 a month for one dog and one security to walk the property, to protect the property for the private investor at the cost of the Bahamian people, based on the agreement what I found, I investigated and find and research. That was a part of the agreement what I come across. Was attached to that particular thing. So when you say that property be sold through and purchased through Act in Parliament, that's why of course we remember that particular.
Let me tell you why that's a little different.
Yes, sir.
Just because the NIB is not run the way it's supposed to, NIB is a statutory standalone agreement with assets on its own. The problem is that we have never allowed the NIB to become what it is. It's become a slush fund for various governments. The national insurance is supposed to be a standalone, separate from government. In fact, it's supposed to have no interference from government in protecting. It's the same thing as having a pension fund. Government is supposed to not be able to direct how the money is spent, where it's spent, and everything. So this has become a slush fund. National insurance is a corrupted organization when it's supposed to be a sovereign asset holding company and run by solid asset management people separate from government. That's nothing. The way in the United States you have Social Security and everything else. Government don't have the ability to control the actual running of it. But this is where we have these ministers controlling it, so we never allowed it to be. So that property was an asset of the NIB. But I'm talking about the sovereign assets of the government. Parliament has approved Crown Land Transfer. Parliament has to approve ownership of shares to see where BTC was sold, supposedly sold. When we'll have a show on that, because I put you that BTC is yet to be sold. And I can show you.
No, I believe you. No. I believe you. I believe what you're saying there. BTC, because they don't really. But listen. You so spot on as the people will think that we talking food, but they don't understand. What happened is only being legitimized through the neglect to take BTC back. If it was a move to take BTC back, then it'll prove that BTC never gone nowhere.
Right. See, what happens is the telco could not be sold without a referendum. Bahamas Electricity Corporation cannot be sold without a referendum. So we have to be careful. Because you changed the name of the telco to BTC, it caused a disconnect. It's almost as if you didn't sell the telco, you sold BTC. And the same thing is happening with sorry, let me speak again. The telco couldn't be sold. So they changed the name to BTC. And then we sold BTC as if we didn't sell the telco. Well, it can be. We can need a referendum for that. I can show you in the Constitution where you need a referendum for that. Because it was never their assets. It was not up to people. It's the same thing. And the same thing is happening with the Bahamas Electricity Corporation, what we call BC. Is now their name change has been named to BPL. And so it's almost as though they're saying, we're having a debate about whether or not BPL is sold or can be sold, when it cannot be sold without a referendum. It cannot.
Well, listen.
These are things that people don't know. So this also brings us back to the same thing of the assets of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The Minister of Finance, in the same way they have not answered a whole lot of things. And I want to come back to the Oxford Creek Agreement, because it's very important that the Oxford Creek Agreement is one of the most powerful agreements. In fact, you heard me for 20 years says there's a meaningful economic development and expansion of the Bahamas without Freeport or Grand Bahama playing a major role. That statement I made is directly tied into the Oxford Creek Agreement because of what is there with the agreement affords us. In fact, even when we began to have the conversation with WCO, Freeport would have been exempted of it. So a whole lot of things that a lot of people don't understand. And I hear the pundits who talk about Freeport and Oxygen Agreement from a historical point that they've been told as opposed to the truth. But let's use an example, the 7.5%. We, as far as I'm concerned, we still own it until they can show in Parliament that that has been sold. Now, what has happened with the shares or the dividends or whatever is supposed to come with it, that is part for an investigation. Secondly, a lot of times people hear with this 2030 type going on. If you go and read the agreement, you know, the government of the Bahamas has the ability to audit the Grand Bahama Port Authority and table in the House of Assembly every year an audited report. That has never been done for that history. And the whole concept that if this agreement, if this argument that the government is making concerning this $357 million that owed for 5 years, if you look at the root of this argument, because this is an agreement, the imagine that I have rent with you, right? It's almost as if you have an agreement for 99 years, and you've never paid these fees at any time. And this is why we would have to go back and look to see what the government revenue in Freeport versus Grand Bahama versus the expenses should have been for maybe the last 30 years, at least in 1990. And what happens then is that you'll be able to see how we've been actually getting our money. I know government made a 5-year move. There is a legal strategy in the government 5-year move, because the government made for 6 years or longer an argument could have been made, which is tied up in court of saying that time barred and statute barred. But we have to look at the agreement to see if there are any statute barred concerning the way this agreement is, because that's an obligation for the agreement to be kept whole. And so if the Freeport has not been developed to the point that the government was able to generate enough tax revenue to cover its expenses. Now, I want you people to pay attention right there. That's so important. If Freeport had met development goals, it would never owe the government anything, because there would be sufficient tax revenue based on the growth of the economy, on the population growth, and whatever else, that it would have generated more than what the government is paying. So what is at fault now is that the Grand Bahama Port Authority has failed to develop the city of Freeport to come to a critical mass to generate the capital that is necessary for it not to owe government. Now, if all things being equal, and it's $5 million a month that the government has supported this deficit working, that would mean since the date of that agreement expired in 2022, they would owe $5 million a month if all things remain equal from then to now, additionally to what has already been asked. Because even for this particular year, because nothing has changed concerning the population growth, concerning the investment to generate capital, because we can see that the city of Freeport is slowly dying. Let me be honest with you. Freeport is a skeleton of itself. Okay? At one time, you're going to find a dozen hotels and nightclubs and the industrial sector and everything else. There has been no major development in Grand Bahama literally since the 70s. And what do I mean by that? Go around Grand Bahama and look at the roads. The Grand Bahama Freeport was beautifully built. So the fact that here it is 70 years later, or whatever time they did the roads, we're just beginning to get the alligator, or what they call the snake skin. You know, the cracks in the roads and stuff is happening. But it is built to last, infrastructurally. Now, the problem is that if you go for every major building, if you go for the condominiums and buildings in Freeport, all of their permits was built in the 60s and 70s. And so when you begin to add, you know, a building is only have a certain amount of life, 40 years, 50 years. So that means, other than so the industry building, a condo building on the south of Florida and south of the Grand Bahama, and the hotel in 1996, 97, and some other minor things. But when you look at all the other condominiums and all the other stuff, they all passed, they reaching the end of life. Freeport still, in spite of all of these things that need to be updated, the sewer system needs to be updated on parts of Freeport. Freeport have sewer system in many of the places rather than separate tanks. Those need to be upgraded. You have the water system that was replaced through the Dorian. If that hadn't been replaced for so long, that needs, if you're going to have this 250,000 people, that will also have to be upgraded. Then you have the infrastructure of the land. That was replaced in 2016 or whatever. Essentially, the infrastructure, those ground pay for second people are expiring, I think, like 2018 or something like that. And the power company is going to give it back to the government. But essentially, this hurricane came in right before Dorian, 2016, 2017, and knocked down all of the ports and stuff. And essentially, what they did was they had to replace all the ports. That they renewed their interest in remaining in Grand Bahama. Mind you, let me give you another fact now. The power company, from my sources, is trying to get out of here because as Freeport begins to mature, this Freeport is no big answer, but Freeport is like that way this kid has been ignored as that's beginning to find itself. And the 21st century that I talked about for so often is arrived, allowing behemoths to have access to resources that is not prohibited. I know the Prime Minister spoke about this speech in Life is Key about tearing down the walls that kept behemoths. Guess what? Those walls that the Prime Minister, they tell you the aging of the Prime Minister. Those walls no longer exist. Digitization, digitalization, datification, and digital transformation, as well as tokenization, has destroyed those walls. The problem is that our current Prime Minister, nor any previous Prime Minister, spoke the language of the 21st century. Mind you, the 21st century began January 1st of 2001. The problem is that we're trying to use the old tools. Remember, Mark, the old tools? They no longer serve us. But we our leadership keep referring to the tools. I use an expression, they're cemented in the past and denied for the future. Now, let me bring you back to people for a minute. Freeport, I guarantee you, if we begin to have an honest conversation, Freeport to generate between 1 and 2,000 new millionaires in the Bahamas per year. I would like people to challenge me on this, because this is the new economy, the new potential. The question is, though, is that do our government understand that, or maybe some other people with our government does, and do the Grand Bahama Port Authority do? Let me say this straight up. I want the people, the leadership of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, even the rest of them, your time has passed. 16 years, 17 years, you've been in these positions, the leadership of the Grand Bahama Authority, and they can't name anything significant to impact the lives of the units. You have been Freeport itself and becoming a ghetto, but it's redeemable. I mean, you could ride all around the east section and other sections supposed to be what we call Marco City Pine Ridge and other things. Freeport is becoming a ghetto just by aging, because we have not opened up the doors of opportunities for behemoths to come into Freeport and develop it. And we just need to have that conversation concerning the way fintech works, and the way tokenization works, and these various things that give the human assets. We should come in Freeport and literally build thousands of bed and breakfasts or short-term rentals with 100% financing.
Or even turn into a retired, what you call it when you're doing...
Not retired. That's one thing. Freeport can hold. Freeport can actually hold the silver economy. That's the retirees. Tens of thousands of Americans and Canadians and other people retiring every single year. We could create a place for them to retire.
Right.
Freeport can hold a medical tourism. Understand it. But Freeport can hold a technology environment. We're just about 60 miles from one of the strongest hubs or nodes right up Miami. But see, there's no industry that you could name today that I couldn't tell you how they fit into Freeport, except for building airplanes and those type of industries. But when you look at what Freeport offers the Bahamian people, we have been denied the opportunity of the lifetime. You hear people talk about the digital economy, conceptual economy, knowledge economy, affluent economy, carbon economy, green economy, blue economy, racial economy, orange economy, data economy, platform economy, shared economy, silver economy, circular economy, climate economy, crypto economy, AI economy, and even the pink economy. All of those things, everything you hear the government speak about, all considered the people right now and not miss a beat. Okay? Freeport is the first place in the Bahamas, in fact, Grand Bahama, where you could begin to have smart homes, smart businesses, smart communities, smart cities, then making this a smart island, then move towards a smart country. So what I'm talking about is, look at obviously at the Royal Caribbean Celebration Key. Look at that experience that they developed on just a small acreage of the land. And in Freeport alone, you have maybe 230,000 square miles that's available in the city of Freeport. What happens now, imagine creating a hospitality industry, and a study is this. I was part of a study that was done in 2009 that shows that 7,500 bed and breakfasts can need to be built immediately, or 7,500 rooms to be built on Freeport immediately, that allows there to be what's called net zero, totally functioning, supporting people like tours and this and everything. 14,000 would be ideal to turn Freeport around. What would happen, and let's just consider this, what would happen if we allow the units to build at 100% financing, boutique hotels, say from 20 rooms, 30 rooms, 40 rooms, And instead of giving one hotel, like we have that garbage called the hotel we're trying to sell, so it's not going to be sold. I'll come back to that. But we can actually have that be, instead of one hotel with 2,000 rooms, having multitude of boutique hotels, restaurants, and other different things to support it. That's why I'm talking about creating millionaires. So 20 rooms would make a person a millionaire within 7 years.
Yeah, but listen, yeah, take our first commercial break, see Alan. But what I want to ask you is the 7.5%. Before we go to the break, do you have a figure you feel that 7.5% is value? Because I mean, I might be wrong, but I never ever in my 49 years of living ever hear them table some money that in the House of Assembly that was paid by the Grand Bahama or the Freeport, whatever, Grand Bahama Port Authority, and that went into the consolidated fund. I mean, they're taxing Bahamians to death. I mean, people in this country is up to taxes in their nose. And Grand Bahama Port Authority, I have never heard, I may be wrong, it may be happening, they may show history and files and documents that they was paying, but I never heard them say, listen, in the budget debate, that Grand Bahama Port Authority total payments to the government is 140 million or 22 million or 50 million, nothing. So I mean, have we getting money from the 7.5%? I mean, anyone know what the account now, what the amount on the account, the 7.5% of the Royal Bank? I mean, is it important that the Bahamian people get money from Grand Bahama Port Authority so they can start cutting down on the taxes in this country, on the black poor people in this country, or just allow them to function for whatever reason? Man, Jajak Hayward and Jordan and dead. You gotta go to break. Let's take a first commercial break. And listen, man, they should just abandon and just hold the paper up and say, that's it. Today's the day. And do a Ronald Reagan. Tear down this wall. Right after the break. Right after the break. Hold the line or you can call back.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now City of Hope, creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. And more options means more hope. Call now to get more of the care you need.
This is Primetime with Independent Thinker. My name is Marlon Owen Johnson, a.k.a. Independent Thinker. I have in the studio my good friend Dario Torelli. If you need any mark, listen, the Grand Bahama Port Authority could use you right now, though. I might still tell you, Mr. Torelli, because they need plenty marketing. Because, boy, based on the mouthful that was being spewed by my good friend C. Allen Johnson, who is Mr. Freeport. I mean, he's saying that it's like a skeleton, man, but and it has the potential to bounce back quickly because of the location and the opportunities that exist there.
Now, Freeport, and welcome Bahamas. Thank you, Marlon, for the opportunity. I'm actually looking at Freeport as my hub to reside in Freeport at some point in time. I love Freeport. I love the non-crowdedness of Freeport more than anything else, and it's organized. It's an organized city, and people in Freeport, city. Yeah, people in Freeport tend to be more free-spirited.
Yeah, you're right.
Not pretentious.
I live with people like that.
So I love it. So I'm actually looking at that's where I'll reside between Freeport and someplace else, and Nassau, based on the business I do. I love to be stationary in one place. And C. Allen Johnson been talking this for years and years.
Yeah,
this is the gold mine of the Bahamas. But I keep saying it. Let me say it again. Lazy, lousy, and corrupt. Freeport is just an example of lazy, lousy, and corrupt government for the last 30, 40 years. He who owns the land owns the wealth. So the people of the Bahamas own the land. Like Rodney Monkey keeps saying, they give us the land back.
Right.
Reparation is you have the land. But a handful of people, every time they get in power, decides who get it and who don't get it. They have a problem of you, who look like them, build wealth through land ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no program to give Bahamians land, but they give foreigners thousands of acres, with a trade-off for jobs. I even have a problem if the low-cost housing, the land should be free.
You
The
know,
land should be like
by
a
you
land
saying
to the
that,
bank.
Mr. Dorelli, you on to something. And see, Alan, I'm going to come back to you right now. But, you know, you saying that, you know, and I, for years, I make noise, right? And they say, man, you're only one person. You're only making noise. You know, this and that, right? But I made noise for years, you know, in reference to the McWarner deal, you know, the I group.
Yeah.
I said, how you could give a foreigner 10,000 acres, right? The former Prime Minister, right, on Perry Glasgow Christie, right? You get them 10,000 acres, right? To sell, and the government get 50% of the money. What you say you sell it for.
Yeah.
And you get 50%. How you get entitled to that 50%?
Yeah.
Let it give them 10,000 acres to the people that make one, number one. Give the 10,000 acres to every Bahamian. Give them 10,000 Bahamians own 1 acre.
Yeah.
Or so, I mean, why will you give it to what? For them to use the sale of the land. To the developer. You might say, Bahamians sell the land and develop the land.
Soon as you sign the agreement, they go to the world and speculate. So that 1 acre in Maguana, that might have been $15,000, now for a couple of millions. And so then they start to create this gated community, and so the people in Maguana can't benefit from the land.
Unless they be maid, butler, driver, chauffeur,
and
gardener.
let's look at the RCI deal on Paradise Island. That's another one of those type of deals.
I know, you know, for the life of me, Mr. Dorelli, you're so right, right? Watch this. The Free National Movement signed an agreement, it was reported that they signed an agreement for 150 years. They would beat the government of Obama, Puerto Rico. What the UBP did.
Yeah.
The UBP did for 99 years.
Not the UBP,
right?
before
Well,
UBP, yeah.
The party before, well, the people who run the country before the UBP.
The British.
The British. But
Yeah.
UBP signed it with Wallace Grove and Bingham, 50 Bingham. So, yeah, the call on night. I go there
More
right now.
than the life of any individual. No
150 years,
live
right?
150
Why would you
years.
tie? Why would you tie if you ain't born yet? Why would you tie their foot before they born?
Yeah.
That's the kind of people who was leading the country when you make them.
And this-
Dr. The Honorable,
and he
the
will come
Right
back.
Honorable Dr. Hubert Alexander
And he
Menace,
will come
please.
back. He will come back.
Listen, man, I can't accept them right now. The Right Honorable Hubert Alexander Menace. The Right Honorable Hubert Alexander, the Right Honorable, they can show us in Right Honorable.
Retire
The Right
and stay
Honorable,
out.
listen, the Right Honorable Hubert Alexander Ingram, the Right Honorable Perry Glasgow Christie, please, you all three, please, man. Go thy way and sin no more. Enjoy your millions and live good and leave the Bahamian people alone, give a chance to breathe and get out of this mess that we in by however they find.
I
Right?
said this
This
on
vet paper bag, listen to me. They need, when you will sign an agreement, right, to give a foreigner 150 years agreement when you might only live till you reach your 10 score, 3 scores and 10, 70. Why would you tie other people? You don't do stupid things and we should pass a referendum to ban and tie their hands from doing stupid things like that.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna be able to sell Patelco. They ain't gonna be able to make agreement for 150 years. They ain't gonna be getting a foreigner in Detroit, Michigan, 10,000 acres.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna be able to lay the Aga Khan and Bell Island, cut the reef in half to lay their yacht pass. I mean, you could go on and on and on, and we just sit by as a people and be loud as it continues. I teach some white on.
Yeah.
They just allow this thing to just continuously, and we some got to listen. I got to see Alan right now. Guess what?
Yeah.
I got to ask you Alan some questions right now about the Ging Group,
Yeah.
who, based on my recollection, they was giving some land in East Grand Mama.
Some beautiful land.
I tell you, and they sell the land and gone. They're going to say, but based on my sketches, my sketch reporter, they got news that way.
Yeah.
They sell up some of the majority now, all the land, and then gone someplace else.
Beautiful piece of land.
They gone. I think they came on island or something. Something got to be wrong. Listen, you know when I realized that is a major problem in this country. I did an investigation on the Bimini.
Marlon, I need you to find out something.
Listen to me. I tell you now. I did an investigation on the Bimini project. Bimini World Resort. And I found out, right, how so much land they even give the Bimini World Resort, the mangroves where all the fishes spawn and grow and where scientists, all the scientists in the world who underwater, who's going to do underwater exploration, say Bimini is the greatest breeding ground for every fish in the world. The mangroves,
Yeah.
right? They get out of American project and all of them dig up and embassy, do hotel and condos and I mean, who's do that?
Hey, Obama, get property in Andres.
Listen to me.
Farmland in Andres.
Listen, I tell you, something gotta be wrong with these people, man.
They get excited.
Listen, by you being a prime minister, and I will tell you by wrong, Daddy, straight up. By you being a prime minister, how in your mind could be you in charge of the country, so most indirectly you in charge of the land. The land always comes under the office of the prime minister,
Yeah.
land and service.
Yeah.
Always under the prime
Yeah.
minister of finance, always under the prime minister. I don't realize that. By you being in charge of the land, meaning that you have authority and the privilege to even grant crown land to Bahamians or grant crown land to a foreigner or even grant crown land to yourself. Why would you give it to a foreigner to sell? For your law firm or for a friend law firm or for somebody else's law firm to get 1.5% conveyance fee. When you own 100% of the value of the land, it just don't make no
I
sense.
understand would be. Listen, you see how they dress? They Negroes in monkey suit. I mean, they go to the front of.
Wash by that.
No. See, that's reality. When they put on coat suit, they Negroes in monkey suit. And when they in the front of white people, they get excited. Remember, I work for foreign firms,
Yeah.
and I see them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When they're in the front of white people, they get giddy, like they have arrived. These people with master's degree, they elevate to the highest level in the country, which is prime minister.
Right,
But when they're in the front of white people, they get giddy.
You know, before you said that, right? Like IWC, a schoolmate of his own he was in one of those Ivy League schools, and his classmate, right, when the FNF was in power, could hire him as the firm he worked for as a consultant. He got to the Bahamas, right? Trying to search a classmate, right? One of Ivy League school, I think it's Columbia University, one of them university, right? He got looking for because his company was hired in the States to come here to do this consulting to the government. They got him attached to this consultant partner with the government when the FNM was in power. He said, he look at him, so when he comes in, man, he tell me this joke, he said, the fella is to come last in class, right? Say, when he talking joke, the fella writing that down too. And he said, that's who they hired as a consultant when the FNM was in power. They come here. We take Seattle, go back to Seattle. Go ahead, Seattle, you're back live on Primetime.
Listen, let me touch a couple of bases you have. The Bimini was a World Heritage Site. They allowed them to fill in so much, they literally wiped off the map of World Heritage Site, where billions of shrimp and fish and things were born every year.
Right.
They filled it in.
I just tell him that. I tell you, listen to me, Seattle.
Totally destroyed it.
Since Seattle, I have a copy. I can tell you this. Let me tell you how deep and it disturbed me so much, right? I spent plenty of money at the time, just a couple of years ago when I did research. And I spent plenty of money to get as much document I could. And I came across documents. I went so far until I even went to find out who all law firms were selling the land for Kapoor.
Yeah.
Right? I will tell you how deep I went. And I found out that we had a law firm that did about 80% of the work. Right? And some other major law firms like Higgs and Johnson and some other law firms, they did some. Right? But one particular small law firm did about 80% of the conveyance work for the land. And I went so far, I found out how much shares Kapoor had owned, how much shares his uncle, his cousin, and all the children and everything, right? The Bahamian who had owned the share was the secretary with one share, or 5,000.
Yeah.
One share. right? And she only had one share out of 5,000, I mean 4,999 shares was owned by a foreigner of Bahamian-owned crown land. I never seen that yet. I tell you, I couldn't believe it when I uncovered. And I say to myself, why would you, if you in charge of this all this acres of land, why would you only want a law firm to be directed to do conveyance, to get 1.5%?
This is the biggest they could see.
I wanted to get back to people. I just want to cut that for you, right? Let me go back now. Let me touch you for Lake Water. A lot of people don't understand is that Lake Water is not what you all think it is. You remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? Where do you know they got deep water harbor there? The same like you have in Grand Bahama, and the land and everything. Trust me. I mean, when I first came home, I went to they had a look at something here where they spoke. And I got up and told the guy that he was so broke he couldn't pay attention and everything else. And the people, the PLPs got up and defended him. And I said, look, this guy here is a paper, right? I just feel, I don't know that you could, for some reason I said, you can't do this investigation. But essentially, what you would have had there was a cruise port. This is why you saw a lot of fights for the last 20 years trying to get the water. But I want you to understand this. Do you know if you take the 10,000 acres and make water, and the government was only going to get, forget selling it to even would to get or make $1,000 a year on each of those acres? Do you know you would end up at $120 million a year into the treasury? So, we'll come back and do a show concerning the value of land in Freeport and Grand Bahama as a whole. And the 1 million acres of the 3.5 million acres that we own. Now, understand that we still own 2.5 million acres of crown land, right? But it's been deposited.
Crown, no. And well, I'll tell you this. Based on the last report that was done, I have a copy of the LUPAC project, right? The LUPAC project, that it was reported and recorded that there are some 3.25 million acres left.
No, you see, I'm saying to you, the whole Bahamas is only 3.4 million acres.
Okay.
So you can't have more than with the Bahamas.
Oh, okay. Now I understand what you're saying.
No, what happens is, now, I can tell you if we had 3.4 million acres and we only got 3.2 million acres, that's because they took them away as dirt. So...
Oh, okay. Yeah, because they haven't, let me tell you what happened, and then you'll understand how I get to that. There was a case involving the McTaggart Simlet case in Long and Cat Island, where the Privy Council ruled that that the government need to really look into creating a land registry act, right? I can tell you right now, quick, before so I can let him continue. And because he said they found that in plenty of cases that come to the Privy Council that there are land sharks still around who are trying to, capture crown land and people land and stuff like that, right? And they say that the government and the former Prime Minister, I must give this credit to him, the former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hugh Alexander Ingram started, and he take advice or take heed or maybe consider what the Privy Council had ruled, right? And the McTaggart came in this case, right? In Greenwood or something like that in Cat Island, right? And the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Hugh Alexander Ingram, get this ball rolling. He borrowed some $3 million from the IDB Bank and $2 million from Royal Bank. $5 million the Bahamian people had to pay back. I don't know if you all remember, some people was coming around putting new numbers on your house, right? All that was part of that project. And when you remember. And part of that institution, when it was creating, you would end title search. You're not to search for your property no more. So all the Bahamian women who are getting taken advantage of now, I didn't know you laughing. You would end that because plenty people tie up their money and their salary tie up at property that the title is no good.
Yeah.
Right? And it's because this was stopped by the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Perry Gladstone Christie in after they went the 2020 election. He stopped it, and it was finished. But the baby was have to pay the $5 million based on my research that it was stopped while he was the Prime Minister, right?
Yeah.
And what happened was, when he stopped it, It prevented people from getting you have a blue paper that you get when you buy a car.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A blue paper that you get when you buy a car, called a title.
Yeah.
When you buy a property in the Bahamas, this thing with the former Prime Minister, right around Hubert Alexander Ingham, had forced to start, you would get a title for your property.
Yeah.
You would get a certificate. So you never ever had to do a title research.
Yeah.
Every property, right? Yeah. Every property would have been recorded.
And the GPS location.
Right, everything,
yeah.
right? So you never had to buy the wrong property, or you never had to buy a property that the person didn't know it.
Yeah.
But it would have exposed, everyone would have had access to see who owned what. How much politician crown land they get in hundreds, right? Because I hear one or two of them get 700 acres at the crown land thing, okay, right? How much they own in South Riding Rock, how much they own in Smith Avenue, right? You would have been able to know, but so this was stopped, this process was stopped. Although the baby was paying $5 million, should ID be in Royal Bank for it? It was stopped. Almost completed, you know. And it was in the best interest of the Bahamian people. And what happened is because you got some land research companies in this country would have been obsolete. Because you wouldn't have to research the land no more.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to wait and pay all that money to get a title search. You wouldn't have to wait 60, 90, 120 years to get your title search back. And then play these lawyers who ain't know what they're doing or ain't care, gain you a proven sale, and the land wasn't even properly owned by the person, right? And these lawyers who on these bank paper, I'm saying, who they say, oh, you have to choose a lawyer from here.
I experienced that.
Right, I tell you. And this would eliminate all that.
Yeah.
And it would stop. So I say to myself, this particular Prime Minister, you can't be people like that. Because plenty of women are suffering in this country. They paying, they money count their salary. My sister was a victim of this, you know. My sister, who worked for the air traffic control, right? She purchased a property in Coral Harbor, and it came out of her salary, and the property, the title is no good. And she can't even get the government personnel to stop the money from coming out. Because the bank saying they don't pay for the property. But the property no good. So who fault that is?
Yeah.
And you know, and of course some other problem, but I'm just saying, you know, this would have prevented that.
The misery index in this country is high. Mr. Jabendo Jones, that was part of his mantra every time he came on the radio. And these are the things will get the misery. People walking
But
in.
that's something you could eliminate. That's one misery index to really that could have been. I got a line right now. I got a line. Listen to me. That's one misery index that wouldn't have been a part of that. Because if you see, you know, one of the goals of being 49.
Right. So you've been around more than 30 years, right? As an adult.
Mm-hmm.
As a new adult.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around longer than that as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the people who've been around 20 years before we born still in the system. So that's why they're not correcting it. Until the 73 generation die, until them fellas who you name call the 3 Prime Minister, till they dead, the control they have them, their friends and family lovers, will always have a stranglehold on this country. It ain't gonna never get solved until all them dead.
Yeah, but listen what I'm saying to you, Mr. Reddy.
Some of their family
what
die
I'm
also.
but I'm saying to you, before I go to Seattle, listen to me. If you allow that one thing to complete, you know what I mean? Single parents, single mothers in this country who buy land. I got a friend who, for years who was working at Telco. She bought a property through that funny corner of Blue Hill Road by 7 Hills there. It's a funny, like, opposite from Benson Road.
Yeah.
And I can call the bank name Royal Bank. She's paying Royal Bank. And they tell her after they discover, because she was paying Royal Bank for the property, but she's building piece, put down the foundation. And they tell her, you know, after the discovery that the title is no good now, right? Because the person come forward who own the property, right? And she said, but then you all tell me pick a lawyer of your list, right? And I pick a lawyer of your list, so that the responsibility that'll be on you all bank and your lawyer, that's between you all.
Yeah.
And not only that, the lawyers supposedly supposed to have indemnity insurance to cover that, right? But the bank, if the lawyer uses indemnity insurance to cover, I mean, they're at fault. So then the bank don't want to be at fault because they don't spend the money the person who they buy it from, right? So what they tell her, so listen, we'll give you a portion of your money back. I said, you gotta be crazy. I said, but you need to find your first receipt you pay. Your deposit you pay, and your receipt, and go to Supreme Court, miss.
Yeah.
Go to this, I tell you, the nonsense that goes on in this country.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I say,
you wonder why killing in this country. Killing in this country because people tired and annoyed. People, it doesn't even fair, man.
In some worlds, that's why terrorism exists. It starts from homegrown terrorism, where people tired for student system, but they helping them out to live a good quality life.
Primetime, go ahead. I'm C. Allen. You're back. You're live. C. Allen. Maybe not going.
Hey, no, wait, yes.
Okay.
That GIS study you're talking about, that was completed. It's just not released to the public. Let me explain to you something.
No, the GIS study is completed, but the LUPAC project is not implemented because you still have to do title. You still have to do title. Hold on, C. Allen. You still have to do title search if you buy the property. When you, listen. No, but I want you to listen to me first. I want you to listen to me, then correct me. If the LUPAC project was instituted, you will never do title search no more. Every person who owns a property will have a blue paper with a title of that property. And when you sell it, listen to me.
Let me make my point.
Go ahead.
Understand this. You're talking about a land registry, a digital land registry. The information is there, and the digitization of the records has already happened. If I'm correct, Benchmark Publishing by Aaron Mills already did probably 60, 70, 80, maybe 90% of the digitization of this country records.
Yeah, I know that benchmark, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm correcting them. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to argue that it was not implemented. I'm giving you some background.
Okay.
The problem is that there's a title company here in the country that gives title, and the same company here, the same group of people also give title insurance. Having a land registry that it causes those companies to die. That's a multi-million-dollar company per year. Now let's go back to Freeport. If you go back to 1990, when the tax concessions on the real property tax forgiveness would expire, Freeport called for a land registry. The Oxford Creek Agreement literally called without a land registry have to be established from 1990. See, but here's what happens in Freeport. If you read the Oxford Creek Agreement for the land registry and local government and everything else, you can't have a land registry in Freeport unless you have it in the entire Bahamas. And so when you begin to even look at the supposed to be the land, the government asks for this money with the land. The question is if this concession suspension no longer exists since 2015 or whenever 2015 given, that means the Grand Bahama Port Authority should also be responsible for real property tax and all the properties they own in Grand Bahama for whatever time that has not been renewed. This is what scares a lot of investors coming here. This one say this is a little bit sufficient time for us to go through the complete details. But let me go back to Freeport. Also in 1990, it was envisioned that a municipal government function, which is already set up now, remember, also the Grand Bahama Port Authority is active, that you're supposed to become a municipal government, initially by the licensees and then open up for elections and everything. With the majority of the taxes that go to new partners will stay here. Let me show you what happens. In 1993, we were given a facade. We call it local government now. But it's a lie. Local government is a lie. That was created at the same time. The suspension of taxes for the 25 years was given only because the Oxford Creek Agreement envisioned that. So it was like they tied all these things in together to fool us into believing that we should still stay asleep. Freeport right now today, if you look at what is happening with the government of the country, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, PC, PGL, and whatever consolidated in the 17 different companies they have, that expiration does not affect the ownership of those properties. The lease part of these properties still remain under lease under the Oxford Creek Agreement until 2054. The other properties they have acquired since this, and all these other properties, will be subject to real property tax. Another line has been told is that the units on Grand Bahama or Freeport will have to pay real property tax. That's not true. We don't pay real property tax on the outer islands, and Freeport will be considered one of them. So in this essence, it says that if you apply real property tax to the units, in Freeport you have to apply it everywhere. So we apply it to foreigners. And so that could amount to about $10 million a year that's been left on the table by the government of the Bahamas right now, at least for maybe for the last 5 years. See, we don't have it. But I'm saying to you, Freeport is an accident, a revolution, economic revolution that's waiting to happen. Now let me show you something. Evolution is a slow process. Revolution is rapid. But the problem is if you fix Freeport, you have to have a land registry showing all the ownership. Now you need a land registry showing all the ownership, all the land in the Bahamas, the whole 3.4 million acres going back to the crown. You'll be able to even question the titles of some of these land in the gaps. There's a company, a major company, you have a company. Do you know they sit and they watch the obituaries to see where there's gap in land, and then they will make documents and fill in the gap and own the land because no heirs. See, listen to me. I'm saying to you, we can fix the Bahamas, and Freeport is the place it starts. That's why the government, I believe, our government is desperate for cash. That's why they went after the real property tax, but you notice they didn't come to Freeport for the real property tax. They went, and understand.
But if the 20, hold on, say, Alan, because you said something very unique. In 2015, they're supposed to start paying real property tax.
Yes.
Why was they given an extension to don't pay real property tax?
They haven't. See, Penny Christie gave a memorandum of understanding, and somehow this is what the very document that Cuba's minister had canceled or something happened. This is the same document they're using to demand this $357 million. So if you can demand the $357 million, then you can also see what I'm telling you. We need another Royal Commission report on Freeport. But
they don't implement what they say, man. The findings and the suggestion and conclusion thing, they don't, man. Listen, they had a crime commission report by the most Archbishop Drexel Gomez, Dr. Seminole, and all them, and the judge, man, they do not catching dust.
No, not the same. But listen to me, man. We can't go on what those old heads do. No disrespect to their life. I'm saying in the mindset, that's in the old mindset. We are a new dispensation of behavior. 60% of the business was born since 1980. They've never got to speak. Do you know the people born in the Bahamas since 1996 are digital natives? They don't even know, they're like fishing water, they don't even know what water is, they're digital natives. They've never had the opportunity to partake of the wealth. We are now in an era, in the last years, in fact, this idea of Cuban minutes coming back is an insult because he parked the car when we should have been moving into the digital revolution. That shows that he's ill-prepared. If he wasn't prepared with the best opportunities then, he's not prepared for the current now. But now Mr. Davis is showing that he's ill-prepared because they're doing a lot of talking and no action. So what happens is because nobody speaks the language of the new global economy. If we begin to have conversations, now I've worked for a platform for 7 years. You'll hear me in the next couple of weeks. That if you come to me, I can give you 100% financing for a house. Remember you talked about the houses in Freeport, the acres? Do you know that every single building we have shot 80,000 homes, I mean 25,000 homes every year. If something were to happen to the Providence today, a hurricane or something would be hit, the Bahamas would go back to the Stone Age. All of these things could be rapidly done, and Freeport could become the second, which says digital transition, if something would happen to the Providence transition to Freeport or transition any other island. We're not having this type of conversation. But when you come back to Freeport, if we get past this $300 million, and the fact is that this money is paid by the GDPA, and there's going to be some legal things concerning the money, and the government attaching some assets that owned by BGL and Consolidated and all these other different companies. That's a legal language that goes on for a year to 2 years. What I'm saying to you, though, the humans don't have that much time. We must find and take Freeport by force, economic force, because understand there's about 30 laws that need to be modified or created for Freeport to become what it is. You've never heard of any of the previous administration or anyone of this administration spoke to what needs to be done for Freeport to prosper. That's the problem because they don't know. I'm saying to you they don't know. I just happen to know, even though I'm 60 years old, understand it. Because I was at IBM in the 80s and all these other companies, the internet came around in 1981 and 1997 and 1992 for the World Wide Web and all this, because I was immersed in these technologies, I know. Because so I am a naturalized digital citizen. We got anybody before 1980 as illegal aliens in the digital world. Did you have the naturalized people between 1980 and 1995? And they are naturalized digital citizens, and the digital natives is from 96 and on. They've never had opportunity to hold on to things. We should turn this economy around, but fixing Freeport requires the skeletons to be dug up. The land reform, tax reform, all of these different things must happen for Freeport to become what it is. So what these people are doing is that it's like, you know, these guys are playing a game of chicken. The Port Authority and the government is playing a game of chicken. And we are fools. We're on the sideline trying to see which one's going to get hit. And they both know they're going to try and left. when they come to each other, not hitting each other. Okay? So essentially, what we have to do as the units become informed of the potential of Freeport, we must demand that the Grand Bahamas Port Authority stop giving us lip service. $2 billion worth of investments from the Port Authority, $2 billion, the government $2 billion. But guess what? Since the late part of 2003, have you heard another announcement about any more investments coming up from the government or whatever? The billion that was built, the $2 billion that was built in the 70s, for recall a hotel that has been hit by 3 or 4 hurricanes full of motor buildings. You know, we paid $65 million, we don't pay for it. See, these are with that honest conversation of where we are and we have to know where we are. Freeport is front and center. We must look past this demand. Government, we can settle that. That's a legal argument. The question though, can the Grand Bahama Port Authority principles bring an idea for the revolution of this in Freeport to happen? And can government bring it? If the Grand Bahama Port Authority had an idea of what to do, they should present it now and bring it to the people and force government to respond to it. And if government has an idea right now, they should bring it to the people right now and cause the Port Authority to respond to it. I say to you that neither of them can explain to you a vision or strategy or plans for Freeport. What they do is they keep picking up here, like a pickup game. Freeport needs a strategic, a vision and a strategic strategy expressed. How, when, where, with all those different things. We're not getting it. But there can be, listen to me, the Bahamas economy has not grown, especially since Dorian and COVID. Here's the problem. Freeport is the answer. Grand Bahama is the answer. But they want it to go the way they want. There are a small group of people who want Freeport, knowing that Freeport is $1 trillion economy waiting to happen.
And really, and listen to me. Listen, see, Alan, you right. Let me tell you why you're spot on. Listen, right now, right? The Bahamas is now being stabilized somewhat based on how it was left from the previous administration. It's more stabilized. It's now coming around. I think there's reports that the debt to GDP has now grown some 14% in the last 2 years, right? Or over 14% in the last 3 years. And because I had one of the former ministers on my show, and he's saying that it's a result of the plans that they left. Well, that's why I don't plan. That was why I asked him to tell the baby people them plans which you left. And he never... Yeah, but anyhow, what I'm saying to you is that the Bahamian people don't have to be taxed at the level they are. If you have a place like Freeport paying their fair share of what it's obligated to them, right? You know, when you look...
If the economy of Freeport grows, understand, the economy of Freeport can literally hit $100 billion alone in 10 to 20 years. Listen to me, that's the Bahamas GDP right now, including the formula is 16 billion. Freeport or Grand Bahama can live 5 times that on its own. There's no more place in the province you can build, and there's no infrastructure, not even rudimentary infrastructure on any of the other islands. If we had a strategy for Freeport, people would be running up fighting to build a new airport. But we don't have anything. What we do is we have to spend some money and not show how it's going to come back. What we need in Freeport is leadership. And listen to me, I have discounted the PLP, and we need to look to the new leadership who's going to be coming in, individuals as well as the Prime Minister, and begin to force shape what's going to happen concerning these economic models that is going to happen. But guess what?
But see, Alan, you must remember. See, Alan, you must.
We don't have to wait to begin to pick up the economy, though. We just need to embrace fintech, tokenization, and insurtech, and agri-tech, and all this stuff. We can put people in the economy today, but we have to stop having the midgets with the megaphones make the noise. What we need is intelligent discussion beyond the midgets with the megaphones. And that includes the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and includes the government of the Bahamas. Because the assets of the Grand Bahama Port Authority is a different story, because the assets will remain while this fight goes on. The question is, can the Grand Bahama Port Authority lead? And they can't lead, they need to move it either way. Go back and manage your assets, and allow a municipal government structure to come into place. We can elect our own mayor, city manager, and all these other different things. Go manage your thousands and hundreds of thousands of acres, and the city will be run by individuals, be run by Bahamians and everything else. And they will be forced to develop their property or pay taxes for its remaining there. We need to sever the
Yeah, but see,
concerning governance
see, Alan,
and assets.
see, Alan, listen to me. Listen to me. You see, it's a mindset. It's a mindset that being propelled from 1992 to 2021. Trust me. See, Grand Bahama and Freeport, 90% of the time voted F&M. They run the country 15 years by the former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hubert Alexander Ingram, and 5 years by the former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hubert Alexander Minnis. They supposed to lead the charge in Freeport. See, we can't take that responsibility from them. Let me tell you why. Freeport always...
Go ahead. Let me just, I believe government is for the Bahamas. This concept of you govern for Freeport is garbage. You govern for every single constituency in this country. A good government governs for every single constituency and look at the whole picture. See, we need to stop this effort in the PLP and ask them, you as the government, just because you're representatives when they see that you didn't develop it, you failed. Governments have failed us on Grand Bahama for the last 30 years.
Yeah, but see, Alan, what I'm saying to you, I know that what you're saying is correct, but what I'm saying to you is, majority of the seats in Freeport was F&M seats. And they had the power in their hands more than any other government in this country, running Freeport since 92. What I'm saying to you is, right, I don't understand how that Grand Bahamas in the state that you is expressing. Why? Grand Bahama was designed, Grand Bahama Port Authority Hospital was designed to be an economic hub. The mindset is the problem in this country. When you will have a party or a prime minister who will grant and allow $2 million from BEC go to help start up a Cable Bahamas business, $2 million from Batelco, $2 million from National Insurance and shares, right? And then allow the principal person to raise $30 million oversubscribed, selling dollar IPOs on the Bahamian local market, to build a business, raise some $36 million, to build a business that other Bahamians was trying to get for years. But really a Canadian come here, a foreigner, and assist him in raising the money to build a business that Bahamians was trying to get. That's a mindset, bro. It's more beyond they laws, they ain't digitalized, and then computer in. No, it's beyond that. It's a mindset.
The new Bahamian now collectively outnumbers that mindset. The problem is we need leadership that forces them to take action.
That's a good way to say it. But I must tell you that it's a mindset, bro. Trust me. Because if you could give a foreigner 10,000 acres and tell him, say, listen, you sell at 10,000, right? And you obligated to give me 50%. What did the foreigner did to own 50% of that money or the next 100 or 100%? What?
These are questions, Bahamians, not political parties. If the Bahamians, let me tell you something. Today, Surrender Pill's speech means more now today than anything else. If you are not prepared to fight for your country, you do not deserve it. And that includes Freeport. And I'm saying to people, we need to have an honest conversation on Freeport, and you will realize we should empty New Providence. This is where the power base is, you know. Understand, the political power base and the financial power base is in New Providence. If you fix Freeport, imagine, I want you to imagine this. If you put 10,000, 100,000, 30,000 people in Freeport in 5 years, leaving New Providence to come to Grand Bahama, you just move 8 seats, 7 seats to Freeport. You're changing the dynamics of the political structure in the country. This is why this is not just a financial fight. This is a fight for the life of the new generations of Bahamians. That's why we have to make sure in the next 2 years that we choose leadership that understand that they submit to the power of the people. The power of the people will be greater than the people in power. We must now begin to have a conversation of what's now, what's new, and what's next.
Yeah, but
how do we discuss the past?
See, Alan.
Thank you. Change the conversation.
Yes, see, Alan.
Yes.
Basically, I'm saying to you, because of the mindset, you know, and I'll bring one example to you, and I'll make a statement on the next one. The example is this: the Doreen Siaga and Abaco was a perfect example that the former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hubert Alexander Minnis, dropped the ball because they never had a plan to deal with the problem that Abaco had faced. Abaco faced a problem for years of immigration and migration and immigration problem, illegal immigration problem, right? Doreen came and put the solution on the plate for them.
Yes.
Where they had to move everybody who ain't died had to move. Right. You know what they do? They allowed them to come and build right back. Right? When the Doreen did them a favor.
Yes.
Right. And what did the Free National Movement do with that opportunity? They dropped the ball. They dropped the ball. Now, this what I see going on with the Grand Bahama Port Authority is a perfect storm for the President Prime Minister to deal with Grand Bahama Port Authority and the hospital agreement once and for all. You know what I say? He either can cause them to stand up straight, get it right, or cut bait and get out the boat. Whatever slogan you want to use. There's a perfect opportunity for this present Prime Minister. See, the former Prime Minister, Honorable Hubert Alexander Mills, dropped the ball with Doreen and eliminating illegal migration and immigration inside Abaco. He dropped the ball. When they had to leave, because the place was decimated, they never supposed to come back. You're supposed to put laws in place right then. You must have work permit to come to Abaco. You must have a certification to be in the country, identification to be in the country, and they're gonna clean Abaco up right then.
But let me say this. Freeport requires immigration reform for the entire Bahamas. But here's what happens. By fixing the immigration reform needs for Freeport, you will be able to look back to the 1973 for citizenship and everything, because digitization does that. But what happens is we have to move to protect citizenship just like we do for Singapore. Because we need in Freeport the intellectual capital to bring about these conceptual economy, accumulated economy, the data economy, AI economy, whatever. But we have to create a citizenship that protects citizenship and even requires the constitutional referendum and actually look back and say that we should do it. We have a conversation on immigration, I can go through the whole thing. But all of these things to fix the new Bahamas requires fixing Freeport. The problem is that Freeport, Grand Bahama, is the only place that we can promote to the world to live, workplace, study, visit, explore, invest, dine, shop. If you want to build the country back together, build back better, stronger together, Grand Bahama is the place. Together, the possibilities are exponential. We have to find our purpose, develop our passion, dream again. Freeport is it. Do not allow this conversation that's going on to distract us from the possibilities from people that actually knows the present, the past, but more importantly, the future. That's the conversation we have on Grand Bahama.
Well, you need to, when you come in Nassau, man, you need to come sit and let me chat. My hour and a half to go. It's 9:01. We are 1 minute over time. So listen, we need to get together and listen. We need to get the conversation. Social media present the greatest opportunity that Bahamians ever had since Linden. I might tell you that, eh? Social media, so the internet.
Let me just say this and say goodbye. Understand that tonight I waited till the expiration of the 30 days. You know, yesterday was the expiration of when the money's supposed to be paid. I will begin to have the conversation. Social media on you and other places. Watch for me. We'll have the conversation, and you and I will have some conversation even without the radio station. I thank you and Love 97 so much for giving me this opportunity to speak. Let the conversation begin, and let this begin the impetus, the start of that conversation where the truth is permeates our discussion and the possibilities are embraced.
Thank you, Seattle. I really appreciate, boy, that's a good call. I really appreciate it. It's the first time I had a call like that but spoke that long. But I needed, because he was supposed to come last week, but he was waiting till that 30-day period expired. And like how he say, listen, I mean, he just, but he from one information to the next. And listen, the possibilities, he say the potentials. And you know, Freeport has it. I mean, and people are just still benefiting. Those companies are still digging the harbor. I don't know how deep they're trying to go. They must be trying to reach another part of the world or something. Because they dig in and they taking out they dig in and they capturing that limestone and whatever they hauling out. And they bragging online, $20 billion in profit organizing. Listen, things need to happen. The Bahamian people shouldn't be living in a blessed, privileged country like the Bahamas and paying so much tax where your dollar's down, 90 cents, 82 cents, 85 cents. I mean, because of taxes. Why? Why Bahamians can't be the citizens are free from taxes as a result of the natural resources and the blessings and the riches this country possesses? Why? I mean, why a multi-billion-dollar company, what is the value of the 7.5% of the Bahamian people in this? of the million people's shares of Grand Bahama Party. What's the value of that? Can we send someone? I mean, how can we equate the value of 7.5%? Next show, next week, Thursday, same place, same time. This is Primetime with Independent Thinker. I'm going to pay homage to my sponsors. The producer is going to be Kandai. I'm singing our final sponsor tonight, City of Hope, the former Cancer Society of Americas. Our final sponsor tonight, Dr. P's Barber Shop for the perfect cut, Jody's Bread Shop, the Bear from the Pond, the Yahan, Bahamas Landscaping and Garbage Collection. If you need a dumpster for the weekend, $99. You get a 20-yard dumpster, some garbage, trash, leaves, old furniture, fridge, stove, whatever, shingles and stuff. And listen, the conversation needs to be started. It has to. The ball is dropping with the immigration problem in Abaco under the former administration, the Free National Movement. But the Hawksbill Creek Agreement and the Grand Bahama Port Authority is a perfect storm to be cleared up. And this administration, they have the privilege, the opportunity, the talents, the knowledge, and the ability with the right man at the helm to deal with it. Are they going to? That's the question. But I end the night show with a great, my usual stand from the late great Prime Minister, the former Right Honorable Sir Lyndon Oscar Pillin. If Bahamians aren't prepared to stand up and fight and defend their own Bahamas, then they don't deserve